I do that every time. When I watch back, I'm like, every time I go,
I try
recording
to
in
pretend
progress.
like it doesn't exist so I don't do weird things. Like
I'm
right
like,
now, like we're
why
talking
am
about
I surprised that she said it yet again?
hmm.
So this is episode 23. Oh, I just hit my desk. Episode 23,
Okay.
sex part 4, taboo part 2.
Okay.
And I had a funny little joke like to be continued or taboo continued. My little play on words there. Yeah, fucking brilliant. Anyway, so I came across an article. I had a couple of articles that I saw this week that I was like, "Arr." And then I saw one today and I was like, I absolutely have to talk about this
Okay.
because I just found it today. It was just posted today.
Hmm.
It's on CNN. It is so, I am so morally outraged
Oh, okay.
and it is fucking egregious. Like
Okay.
that. Okay, I'm just gonna read it to you. I'm gonna read you the title. Okay.
Okay.
Man on trial in France accused of repeatedly drugging and having his wife raped by at least 50 strangers for almost 10 years.
What?
Yeah.
How did she come forward? Or okay.
Here's what happened. Her name is Gisele. She
Okay.
is 71 years old. His name is Dominique. He is 71. She's 72. He's 71. Okay.
Okay.
She'd been suffering from some episodes like, forgetfulness or like went to neurologists, said it was wrong with me, like, and nobody could find anything wrong with her. Right. Okay. And her and Dominique have been married for 40 years and they
Mhm.
are parents and grandparents.
Okay.
Today, his trial started in Avignon, France. The reason Dominique was arrested to begin with was in 2020 when he was caught filming under women's skirts in a shopping center.
Okay.
So he was arrested and they confiscated his cell phone and his computer.
Oh.
And that is where they found the footage of him filming his wife being raped while unconscious by multiple men.
Mm.
He documented all of it, and then he would share the footage with the with the men who were assaulting her. So there are 92 sexual assaults documented, committed by 72 different men, ages 26 to 74,
Wow.
over 10 years. So the trial started today. And Gisele had the option for the trial to be private because of the sensitive nature of the material, because Gisele doesn't remember any of it. So
So she's,
when
oh boy.
so when these men testify in court, it'll be the first time that she heard what had been done to her for over a decade by strangers.
Wow.
And the 50 identified men as the accused range in age from 26 to 74.
Hmm.
Okay. She decided she wanted the trial to be public
Okay.
because she wants to raise awareness
Right.
for what was done to her. So, trial starts today. Her husband, Dominique, has been in jail since 2024 because of their original arrest of trying to video under women's skirts at a shopping center, right?
Hmm.
Here's the interesting part. Well, here's another interesting part to this. He does not contest any of it. He admits
Wow.
it fully. He
Okay.
admits it fully. Um, she has 3 children. She has 2 grandchildren, maybe 4 children. There's like conflicting reports, but she has a daughter who started an awareness campaign that is called Don't Put Me to Sleep which is against drug-induced sexual assault. So what
Okay.
he did for a decade is he drugged her food and her drinks with sleeping pills and anti-anxiety medication. And then he went online and recruited men to rape her, and he filmed it. And some of the defense of some of these men was, well, he told us it was a sex game that they played between each other.
Yeah.
And that they thought, some of them said, I thought she was pretending to be unconscious. Or, you know, that was part of the game.
Right.
So clearly they're in divorce proceedings. One of the things that bothered me, and you know what? I gotta say that okay, one of the things that bothered me is in the CNN article, you know, there are pictures, and the pictures are of the pictures from the courtroom are of her and the people who are there with her, like her children, her grown children, right? She's in sunglasses. She's, you know, she's in sunglasses, but she's fully on display. I don't give a fuck about like accused rights, okay? Like victims' rights. Okay. So she is completely on display, and her husband and the men who are the accused, who all 50 of them were in the courtroom today, along with her husband. No names. Well, just Dominique, his name was released. No names of the 50 men accused, no pictures of the 50 men accused.
Right.
But she can be photographed at will.
Yeah.
At will.
Yeah.
And this is a 72, like she's 72. She thought there was something wrong with her memory. She thought she was having neurological problems.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
And that's why she was seeking medical, you know, attention from neurologists and her regular doctor, whatever. They couldn't find anything. Because this piece of shit had been drugging her for years and allowing strangers into their home to rape her, and he documented it.
Yeah.
Not only do I think his full name should be released in his picture, I think he should have to stand in the public square in a pillory every day and
Yeah.
have people throw shit at
And
him.
I don't get it because, like, in the States, even if the crime is alleged and you haven't been convicted of it, they show your face, unless you're a minor.
Well, this trial just started today.
Okay.
So, and they expect a verdict, that their expectation of a verdict, I don't know how the French justice system works, but their expectation of a verdict is December of 2024.
Okay.
Trying to see how this would be a difficult case to prosecute, considering there's video footage
Yeah.
that I'm sure is admissible. And guess what? Gisele gets to watch it.
Oh my God.
So I was reading this and I was like, yeah, can't let this one pass me by. But it like it struck a memory in me. Like I remember watching the movie Kill Bill. Remember the movie Kill Bill?
I actually didn't see
Ever
it.
watch it?
No.
Don't.
Okay.
But at one point, Uma Thurman is in a coma and she's in a hospital, and the hospital workers rape her while she's in a coma, and
Oh,
also
nice.
have like their friends come and do it too. And you know, it's disturbing at the time, but fiction.
Yeah.
Okay. We all know Quentin Tarantino like shock factor.
Yeah. Right.
This is not fiction.
No.
It's not fiction. And so when I read it today, and I read it in two different places, you know, CNN, in my opinion, being a little bit more credible than People magazine,
Yeah.
but it's in
Right.
People magazine as well. I couldn't let it pass. I couldn't let it pass. So you should have the option, if he's found guilty,
Yeah.
so you should have the option of killing him.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I can't, I'm still stuck on the fact that they're protecting, okay, well, maybe just today, but they're protecting
Maybe
the
just
innocent.
today.
You know,
Maybe
maybe
just today.
all those names will come out, and it won't just be her and her children sitting there. Yeah.
But, you know, at least her daughter is taking some, you know, and there's protesters outside
Oh, I
of
bet.
that courtroom about, you know, not protesting what happened to her, protesting him
Yeah.
you know, and who's giving him the sleeping aids? Who's giving him the anti-anxiety? Who's prescribing it?
Yeah.
Who's
I
like,
mean, yeah.
and why are they not questioning, oh, you're going through this really quick? Like what, like,
Yeah. And
so,
out of all those men, there wasn't one person that went, this is weird. Let me not do this and call the police. I don't,
you're recruiting me online. I don't know you. I'm a stranger.
yeah.
And you're telling me that this is a sex game that you and your wife played. Now, this all the 10 years went from like, 2011 till 2021. She's 72 years old,
Yeah.
which means the last sexual assault, she was 69.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not telling me that somebody and one of those men didn't say, it's a sex game you guys play in your late 60s as
Yeah.
grandparents?
Hmm.
Like, and how, like, but then again, Katie, sometimes people believe what they want to believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you have agreed to be a part of this to begin with, then you're going to have some parts of yourself you're not happy with. So the last thing you want to do is pull up the truth, right?
Well, and who knows what sites he found these guys on.
Yeah, right. Then they'd have to, well, I hope all that comes out too.
So that is what I saw today. And like I said, I couldn't let it pass me by because the original intent of this podcast was abuse
Yeah. Yeah. Boy.
and raising awareness for abuse and
Yeah. And
supporting victims.
talk about somebody who's really making a sacrifice to make that happen. Yeah.
For her to say, no, I want this trial to be public.
Yep. Yep.
I want it all out there.
Yep.
She's not doing it. It really isn't like she's doing it because obviously she's divorcing the husband. Obviously she never knew who he really
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
She's
And
doing this.
she's doing it without even knowing what's ahead of her. That's the thing that really blows my mind because she doesn't remember. She's got to watch this, the videos. She's got to listen to the testimony. Oh man. Yeah.
So you know what? That's an incredible sacrifice in regard to her mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And, probably on some level, dignity.
Oh, sure. Yep.
But if she sees a greater good, which
Clearly
is,
she does. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of amazing to
I
me.
can't even imagine,
So,
you
like
know.
I said, fucking egregious,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like something something from a movie, a bad, bad
Bad
movie. I
movie.
mean, like a really bad movie. And so I just had to share it because I was just so sick. I was
Yeah.
sick over
Yep.
it. And
Ugh,
we want to keep our focus, obviously, to TV victims and survivors. And that woman's a fucking survivor.
she is and a hero. Yeah.
Hmm. She is.
Yeah.
And just so there's so many layers to that one. The
Yeah.
kids, the grandchildren. I mean, like,
All of it. And just thinking that this person you've been married to for yeah, you can't even. Yeah.
hmm.
Yeah.
So
Poof.
that was the news for today. I'm actually going to keep a really close eye on this.
Yeah. Let's see
I
what
don't, I,
happens.
I mean, I don't even know. When people are in the news, they're journalists. At one point in time, I wanted to be a journalist. I did. I wanted to be a reporter. Like I was interested in it.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know how you can't be personally affected when you
Oh
report on
gosh, of
something
course
like
you
that.
are. I mean, if you ever see the documentaries of like the people like that were on ground zero and stuff, and they just go into it because it's their job, right? And it isn't until they come out of it going, oh boy, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I'm glad the daughter started something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, I- it should, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That was a rough one.
Yeah.
Um, so okay, so we left off and we get to get back to taboo continued
Yeah.
to be continued. We can still listen, folks. That was a tough one, but there's, humor always bridges, laughter is the best medicine.
All the
not being
things.
insensitive to that, but they can
Mhm.
coexist. They can coexist.
Yeah, yeah.
We left off at in regards to taboos, extramarital sex, and we covered that, like
Yeah,
how
we
that,
did.
because
Yep.
we're going to do a whole other episode on
Infidelity.
what.
Yeah, we were gonna talk. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then this article is from Delicto. This is the one that I've been referring to.
Okay.
Never heard of Delicto, but it was out there. So then it goes on to say, I'm sure it's credible, but then it goes on to say, do Western cultures have sexual taboos? Okay. So the first ones that we covered were kind of like viewed worldwide in their opinion as taboo, right?
Right.
Incest,
Okay.
cross-dressing,
Yeah.
homosexuality. So do Western cultures have taboos? And this site's actually really good because, they're like, Western cultures are less sexually repressive than they were 30 years ago. There's
True.
been a lot of growth,
Yep.
you know, the signs are everywhere, right? Like gay pride parades, widespread acceptance of sex toys,
Mm-hmm.
the ubiquity of pornography,
Right.
so loud and proud has become the standard of the free world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what it's growing anyway. But there are still some sexual taboos that they say exist.
Okay.
And like you said, is it harming you?
Right.
Right? Like,
Right.
first one that they list for Western culture taboos, which this is interesting. Period sex.
What?
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
Huh.
Like in this day and age,
I am. Where'd this article come from?
it's called Delicto. Um, it's a website. But it's a website that like it's written by Rose McDowell. It's
Okay.
very well written. It's very well written. It
Mm-hmm.
seems like it's a website that might be like another sex positive, like
Okay.
type webs that really addresses like a lot of stuff.
Okay.
But I think they're just pulling the ones that, you know, yeah, because like sometimes like, with period sex, it's like, oh, gross, she's on her period, she's dirty, she's gross, disgusting, whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas
I mean, it just seems
other
like
people
such
love
old stigma, but I mean, it'd be interesting to take a poll because,
it.
uh,
No, but like, it's just it can actually be really good for the woman who is on her period because a lot of times it like alleviates cramps. It like, so
absolutely.
there's a
Yeah.
positivity to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, again, up to the personal people. So that
Yeah.
one I thought was a little interesting because
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
mean
think that would come
it's
up.
interesting. I guess I think that's I don't know. I'd be interested to where did it come from a poll? What are her words about it? Does she say where it came from? Other than describing it, we know what it is. But did she say where she got it from?
No, not really. Actually,
Okay.
I don't know. I have to look back. I have to look back to the intro. I don't know. I'm probably go to the end.
Sources.
At the
Sources.
end, at the end is probably where it's going to be. Well, let me take off sources. No, not really, not really. This
She's
could
like,
just
this
be
is
her opinion.
her own little private tab. But okay, let's
Maybe
keep
she did a little. Okay, so the next one's pegging. We already talked about pegging.
yeah.
Like we did talk about pegging. Because it seems taboo because it involves a woman penetrating a man. That's normally what pegging
And
is.
this is what I said, I guess the fact is, call it as taboo as you want. It's happening a hell of a lot more than you think. So,
Exactly. The
mhm.
next one is fisting.
Hmm. Well, would that be, I don't know how much of a heterosexual practice that is. I mean, are they,
I don't think you can just reserve that for heterosexual, but she
no, that's
says,
what I mean.
yeah, it's not.
Certainly a personal preference now, is it vaginal or anal? Does she
It
specify?
says it can be vaginal or rectum of a partner.
Hmm.
It was once reserved for extreme types of pornography,
Okay.
and now it's really not.
Again, I mean, I guess I have to go back to the harm factor, right?
Right. Is
I
it
mean,
consensual?
is it consensual? Um, and I think some people, let's say that they're not necessarily in the best place emotionally or mentally, then sometimes you just have to use the reaction to the body. So say if it causes harm to the body, right? But maybe you're not in a very good place emotionally or intellectually, or your mental health isn't. If there is anything happening to the body that is damaging, that should
Right.
also be a clue that says, hey, we might like this a whole bunch, but maybe we should stop. Kind of like cutting, when someone does cutting. Hey, that might feel great, but I probably should stop because I'm bleeding everywhere. You know what I mean?
Right. So those,
So,
okay, so those first three, I was kind of like, Now, this is where I think it gets, this I can see, like
okay.
people thinking this is a taboo, but like not, okay. Voyeurism and exhibitionism. Now, I want to read that she says,
Okay.
voyeurism and exhibitionism include being watched while masturbating or having someone else masturbate, watching other people have sex, or being watched while having sex. Um, and she said consensual voyeurism and exhibitionism are still taboo, though not as much as they once were.
Okay.
Non-consensual voyeurism and exhibitionism, also known as peeping and flashing, are not only taboo in Western cultures, but are illegal.
Yeah, that's where exactly I was hoping she was going to differentiate between the two. Yeah.
Right. So, okay. And this is something that I wanted to bring up because it kind of goes along with it. I actually
Mhm.
made notes for today. Hold on.
Okay.
So voyeurism and exhibitionism. Okay,
Yeah.
so voyeurism is watching somebody else.
Mhm.
Exhibitionism is having sex in public,
Mhm.
right? Public
Mhm.
places, restaurant, bathroom, park, and some people do like that. Now, if you were to be having sex in a public park and you get discovered upon by authorities, you're going to be arrested.
Oh yeah, you're in trouble.
So just so it may
Mhm.
seem like super friggin' fun, you're going to be arrested.
Yeah.
Um, but one thing that I thought was interesting that kind of goes along with us, and it's something that I think is, I don't know if it's kept just to porn right now, probably not. Scolding,
Scolding?
cuckolding.
Oh, see, I guess I'm doing this kind of dynamic still where I'm like, if you're not,
Hurting
if it's
anyone.
consensual, you're not
Mhm,
hurting anyone, including yourself, right? I mean, I'm going to put
mhm.
that in there too. So the body is not being seriously harmed. Okay. I don't know. Then I guess maybe I'm just like taboo is what's in your own brain, right?
Right. So like cuckolding, if nobody knows, it's actually a very old term.
It's very
Like
old term. Yeah.
very old term. If you read any historical romance novel,
It's all up in there. Yep.
and so basically cuckolding is, well, used to be if the wife had another lover besides the husband,
Hmm.
then the husband was being cuckolded, which means basically made to look like a fool,
Hmm.
right? Like because his wife was having
Yeah, the
sex with somebody
humiliation
else.
factor and the yeah.
So he was humiliated. He was cuckolded.
Hmm.
But there is a trend in porn which is for a husband to want to be cuckolded. So he wants to watch his wife have, well, for lack of a better term, he wants to watch his wife be fucked by somebody else,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? It's not that, and again, consensual, but the I was gonna say the main thrust, which is it's not good language. Pull it back, Ellen. Pull it back. Pull it back.
Did you just say pull back
And I
too?
just
Yeah.
said pull it
Well,
back. Okay,
yeah.
y'all, it's Tuesday, it's September, things are wild. So no, but like the mm, point of it is it's not that she's being taken against her will. That's not what it is. We'll get
No,
into
it's
that.
not at all. In fact, that's kind of like consensual voyeurism. And
But
in
it's
fact, in
like,
porn, I haven't seen that term used. I just see it as I didn't know that they were using that term. Not that I'm a
mhm.
huge, I mean, I didn't even know that they were using that now. Um,
Listen,
and I
it's not
saw
like
that the
I'm
coco
not
I
watching
always saw
porn for
as just
hours a day. That's not what
more
I'm saying.
that's,
But
in my
it
free
it it
time. In fact, I
It's-
have to go because if you
This
haven't
is a
seen
really great.
if I were to share my screen right now, we'd have a problem. But
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 no, so it exists,
yeah,
shall we
and
say.
I thought that that was just more anyway, I think it ties right into consensual uh twice or both ends.
But it's even
Exhibitionism
better.
and voyeurism.
Even
So,
better.
right
But
at the same
see,
time.
cuckolding's a little bit more specific than voyeurism,
Yeah.
because voyeurism is possibly watching strangers have sex. It's not watching your spouse have sex.
I've heard it used in various terms. So I have heard it. But yeah.
Right. So that, so
But I
that,
don't think it's taboo. I'll put it out there. I still don't. I mean, any of that
well,
I
it's just
don't.
because this is what people are considering taboo, right? Like
Right.
this is like, I mean, if you were to go on, like I actually looked up again today, did a
Mhm.
separate search, like, you know, how do things become taboo, right? Like how do things, if you do taboo and you do sex and you put that in a search, this is what comes up. It doesn't even
Yeah.
matter like what website or what publication. These
Right.
are like the biggies. So, okay. Of course it goes into BDSM, but
Right.
impact play, which is hitting, slapping, whipping. Then it goes into daddy dom and little girl relationships, quasi father and daughter roles,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which some people consider uncomfortably close to incest, even though these people are not related. And
Yeah.
then knife play, rape play.
Mm.
Okay, other consensual acts that play with notions of violence and control, but are considered by many to be abusive and on the fringe of sexual behaviors.
I'm going to go back to intent.
Right.
You know, is your intent to try to frighten your partner? Are you aroused by that? Um, I'm going to go back to intent. If it's, I have certainly met with people who were doing play like that, and I had no, I don't want to say it's a feeling, but I've had people where they've told me they're doing that kind of stuff, and I'm like, how do I bridge the gap and say this is a terrible idea just because I have a
Or what about
feeling?
like choking, right? Like
So
choking.
choking in general,
And
so
that can go horribly wrong sometimes,
it
though.
does,
Like
and
if
it does go erotic asphyxiation goes wrong a lot of times, um, and in the throes of things, it doesn't take that much pressure to be too much. So I don't know, man.
and like, okay, so we talk about consensual,
Right.
right?
I mean, so let me change this. So taboo?
Yes.
No. I'm gonna say no. But
Well, because taboo, like we said, has changed so much over the years,
yeah,
right?
but harmful? Possibly. So now we're talking about things that are like are not taboo and not harmful. That's kind of how we started, right? And
Right.
now we're talking about things that have the potential to be harmful, which I guess kind of everything does. But in particular, you're playing with some dicey stuff here, right?
Well, what
So
I
I
think you
guess
have to be sure of, like you
yeah,
said, intent. So if
yeah.
your partner, or okay, let's not always say it's partner because it's not always a partner. We all
Mhm.
know that there are websites out there, right, that cater to what you would consider, non-traditional sexual encounters, right?
Mhm,
We all
mhm.
know that, if there's someone who, like you said, like BDSM, okay, there's clubs for that. But
Def
with the advent of the internet,
mhm.
okay, and some of these sites are safe, some aren't. But like if there are
Right.
people who are, interested in rape play,
Yep.
okay, or interested in impact play,
Yep.
um, and these may not be people known to you,
Mhm.
and maybe you can only engage in this with people that are not known to you.
It's a good point.
The real thing to do, I mean, how well do you know them, right? So maybe the taboo comes
Right.
from the fact that, you know, this is something you like and it's something you want to do, it seems like it's outside the norm. Not that we know what the norm is anymore.
Yeah. But
Really,
but here's the kicker, right?
gotta be
So if
careful.
you have your own internal shame and taboo about it, then
Mm.
isn't that going to be the thing that drives you to go to these places that might not be healthy? Because you're afraid to talk about it or you're afraid to explore it on a more healthy level, maybe?
And this is where we get into, I just made a comment. I think I've made this comment twice this week to two different people
Mhm.
about living authentically and honestly,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
If there are, like we talked about, don't stifle parts of yourself.
Yeah.
But if there is something that you want to pursue in your quest to live as yourself,
Mhm.
and to be completely authentic and honest, there's boundaries and parameters and there's safety measures, like, because even though sexuality has widened over the years,
Mhm.
like you said, when we were talking about the BDSM clubs, you were like, well, you do have to be careful because there are people out there who want to commit harm.
Yeah. And then they just find the niche where they can get to it easier. Sure.
One thing I wanted to go back to when we were talking last week, and you were talking about balance in your life, and we were talking about BDSM, and you said, sometimes people like, the degradation part, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but then you said they find a way to find balance in their lives in other places
Yeah.
that then does not have them desire the degradation. But
Right.
what I wanted to say, because I thought that was an interesting comment, because that can go either way. Say
Mhm.
you're somebody who is incredibly accomplished, who is in charge of everything for your home and your family and your kids and your
Yep.
job and stuff. And you're on top of everything and you're the main force and you're driving it. There might be something inside of you that is like, I just want to yield, right?
Oh,
I want to
it
yield,
goes both ways. Absolutely.
right?
You'll see a lot of that where people are like, now I just want to be submissive because I'm so tired but it's an extreme again sometimes because you're in charge of everything. So you got to find one aspect of your world where you're not in charge of anything. Yeah.
And it's not even really so much being submissive in the sense of like subjugated or like, below someone. It's like it's more of like, can, can you be in control of this situation, but not in control of the sense of like degradation or putting someone down.
No.
Control in the sense of like, you're taking care of it, you take initiative,
Yeah.
you do whatever. But then
Yeah.
there's also the flip side of someone who feels like they have no control in their life,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Everything is just done to them and they're just intercepting all of it, and they feel like they're constantly yielding or they're constantly compromising or, you know, yeah, being a yes person. Yeah, okay, okay, okay,
Right.
whatever. And those may be the people who in a sexual encounter want the control because they don't have it on a daily
Yeah.
basis.
And I think that and again, the balance, right? So if say you're profoundly out of control in your life on many, many different levels, professionally,
Right.
personally, mentally, emotionally.
Mm.
Um, and then you go seeking out sexual experiences where people will be incredibly way over the other side of the pendulum, maybe passive or submissive. And that can run into, because it's another extreme, that can run into some dangerous things too, you know?
I just find it really interesting because, like, we all have like stressors, right?
Mhm,
And the stressor could be, God, I do everything. Or the stressor could be, Jesus, I feel like I'm in charge of nothing, right?
mhm,
And
mhm.
like when we talked about like sexual encounters and how someone acts sexually, being like their truest self or being their truest form, with the exception of performance or, professional sex work,
Mhm.
that may translate. And it may translate in the sense of like, it balances you. And it might be the only place you find balance. But then if
Right.
someone feels like, God, I'm in charge of everything and I'm sick of it. And like, but say the partner picks up the slack or starts to rise to the
Then it calms
occasion and
down.
starts
No,
to
and
even
it
out.
does, that's exactly what happens. So that desire, so I mean, you've tapped on a big thing, which is, people's sexual preferences change. And psychologically, you can go into why. And there's lots of, that's one of them. As you change, your sexual preferences change. Do you go from someone who's in control of nothing to someone who's in control of everything? Do you end up finding a balance in your everyday life? Then how does that translate into your sexual relationship? Maybe, I mean, I would hope that as you become, if you're, I'm just trying to be careful with my words. If, say
Oh,
like,
'cause we haven't used any words that anybody would find a
yeah, I
problem.
know, but I mean, with your life experiences, inevitably, there might be some core sexual components that you hang on to, but it's gonna ebb and flow.
So
And
like yeah. So
Mhm,
okay. So for example,
mhm,
voyeurism and exhibitionism.
mhm,
Okay. Would you say, and this is just putting it, this takes it from theory and puts it into like, well, not practice, but puts it into like, talk. So say someone who's an exhibitionist sexually.
yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say they're an exhibitionist in every other aspect of their life.
Oh, right. Again, the human condition is homeostasis. We want balance. We want it
Yes.
all the time. We do it in our relationships. We do it at work. If something's off kilter, our natural inclination is, overall is to find the balance in it. So yeah, if someone is a hardcore exhibitionist and that's what they're into, I mean, I'm not saying it never happens, but it's very likely that you're not seeing that in our everyday life. It'd be how it's very, very interesting how people who do burlesque shows or things like that, they have very, very low key, not every again, I'm hesitant to generalize, but often,
Right. I know.
what you interpret their life to be is not you know,
Well,
you
yeah, like
know.
sometimes like people have um hobbies that you never would guess they have, right? Okay, like, and this is fictional. It's totally fictional, and it's not sexual at all. It's not. But I remember one of my favorite episodes of Modern Family. Okay, the show
Oh, I remember
Modern
that
Family.
show. Yep. Hold on, I'm scratching my back. Hold on.
Oh, go for it.
With a paintbrush. Hold on.
We'll get to that next time. No, but like one of my
Okay.
favorite episodes of Modern Family
Mhm,
is there's Claire, who's the wife of Phil, blonde,
mhm,
she's, the kind of like the type A personality, like, whatever. And there's Gloria, obviously, who is, basically like her mother-in-law because she's
mhm.
married to like, but Claire is this kind of like A-type personality, straight arrow, right? Like everyone knows what to expect from her, mother, wife, whatever. In this one episode, she secretly for years has been going to shooting range
Oh yeah.
because she that's how she like releases like her stress. She goes and
Mhm,
shoots. And so like Gloria, I don't know if she follows her or she thinks something's up. And so she like, comes upon her at this shooting range and she's like, what are you doing? You know? And Claire's like, oh, I don't come here that often, and these guys walk by, they're like, hey Claire, she's like, I do. But she's there all the time
Yeah.
because she needs the charge and she needs the risk and she needs
Yeah.
like, she needs like that. And so that's what I mean. Like the funnier part of that is she says to Gloria, oh, well, come in with me and like, I'll show you what I can do. And so like Claire's like got her little like things on and her glasses and she's shooting and she's not really hitting anything. And Gloria just picks up the gun and goes right through the heart. All three. She's fucking awesome. But like that's what I mean. People
Yeah.
sometimes have these hobbies, side gigs, interests that you wouldn't
Oh, yeah.
associate with them.
Oh,
But
yeah.
like when we talk about balance, it's balance, right? Claire, mother, wife, got it
Yeah.
under control, in charge of everything, does everything great, does everything well, A-type personality.
Yep.
Sometimes you're like, whoa, to, I need a release,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That release could be going to a shooting range. That release could be,
Yep.
I
It
don't
could be
know.
sexual in nature. It could be boxing. It could be, yeah.
I love to box. I have a
Yep.
boxing setup in my basement. It's great. Um, but so you see, I wanted to go back to balance because I think that's really important. And so when we talk about these taboos or these things that were considered taboos, and some of them have normalized.
So I think what we have to do, and what I'm hearing us do it, which is interesting because this is what people what people do is they separate their sexuality from who they are as a person a lot of times. And you need to look at it holistically. If you
Mhm.
are a person who has a tendency to lean toward extremes, then you need to know that you are going to have to find balance in your life, whether it's food, whether it's sex, whether
Right,
it's work. So
right,
that who you are is gonna show up in every aspect of who you are, right? Maybe it's not always the same what you choose to be extreme in, but it's always going to be there if that's kind of your nature, right?
right.
So you
Like
got
I
to
have,
find.
yep, yep. And I will say this, and this is just a personal observation that I've made over myself. I'm a
Hmm.
smoker. I'm a
Hmm.
smoker. I've been a smoker for years.
Hmm.
And but the thing is, I don't actually on a daily basis, I don't actually smoke that much.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I'm also pretty anal about it. So like of course I switched to like all natural cigarettes years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I have done is that I only allow myself when I do go to smoke, I only allow myself like 3 inhales and I put it out.
Hmm.
And I put it out and I come back to it. And when you smoke all natural cigarettes, they burn a lot slower because there's no chemicals in them. There's no saltpeter. So like I could
Right.
literally smoke one cigarette 3 different times
Hmm.
before it's done. However, when I am in a place of turmoil, conflict,
Hmm.
I mean, this is classic, right?
Hmm.
Turmoil, conflict, uncertainty, insecurity,
Hmm.
I smoke more.
Hmm. Sure.
And I notice it in myself. And I know. And
Hmm.
I'm like, what is that? So what's the balance I'm looking for? Because
Hmm.
I feel unsure. I feel insecure. I feel stressed. I feel, I could
Hmm.
be doing so many other things, right?
Yeah.
But I notice it in myself.
Well,
And
we
then if
go.
I'm feeling really great, I
Yeah.
can go one day and have one cigarette.
Yeah. Well, so if we go to those things that we attach comfort or soothing to, okay, so we
Mhm.
can replace that cigarette with anything else. Like I was saying, you can replace it with food, you can replace it with
I don't want to replace
working
it with food.
out, you can replace it with sex, you can whatever it is. So
I
if
would
you've
like to
got
replace it with
something,
X, but that's not happening.
yeah. You're careful, we don't, that's,
Sure.
don't go on those places, Ellen.
I'm not visiting any places. I will
Don't
not visit
visit the
any places. Yeah.
places.
But you know what I
Um,
mean? Like
Yeah, but it's all about soothing. So we have even our healthy soothing coping mechanisms can turn unhealthy. They can. I've got a guy I'm working with right now. If he doesn't stop working out, I he's done so much damage. He has to go get a second knee replacement. This dude's 33. His hips going? Yeah.
oh, that's not good.
No. And this
He
guy,
needs to
he
balance that
runs.
with something else.
Well, he
Yeah.
can't, right? So he can't find vulnerability. He won't be vulnerable. He won't be anyway, that's a whole nother story, but
Right.
it's again, so right on one aspect, great, oh, if you don't feel terrible, go work out more. No, I mean, not to that extent. And So
because then you're getting into the realm of it being excessive, right? Like when it starts to become excessive, like
yes,
say you knit because knitting helps you balance. Well, it's not a balance if you've already knit 400 sweaters for every single person you know, and your entire house is covered in Afghans.
you got it.
Okay. You're getting excessive, you're getting obsessive about it,
And I
right?
think it just goes
That's not
back.
balance.
No, and we need to find it's, even trying to teach that in your kids when it comes to life, I mean, nothing nothing to an extreme is going to benefit you. It really isn't. I'm literally trying to think of
Too much
anything.
of a good thing is not a good thing. I mean, right?
No,
We talk about this all the time,
yeah,
right? Like too much of a good thing is not a good thing.
no,
Um, even if you're trying to balance out. So that's why I wanted to come back to balance. Like, even though we've been talking about sex and we've been talking about taboo,
yeah,
it all comes back to being human. Okay.
yeah.
Whether it's sex or knitting or
That's
working
right. That's
out
why,
or whatever.
it's a whole unit, all of it's,
It really is. And
yeah.
it comes back to the main premise, even though this podcast was because I wanted to readdress this because we are going to go back into um direct topics to abuse and
Mhm.
violence and all of that. This was our four-parter segue, which
Mhm.
honestly could be like Grammy nominated. I mean, like,
Well,
who has covered
we
this
better
stuff?
start booking our tickets to LA for but you know what it started with the narcissist and sexual relationships, and so this is the counterpoint of figuring out um where is that healthy boundary um when it comes to sexual relationships in general, and how does the narcissist play on that. um And the other thing, oh, I wanted to mention this too. I forgot to mention this, speaking of that episode. So, yes, narcissists in bed, they need the applause, right? So, if you're having a good time, then they win. But part of what narcissists are really good at too, and I'm sure you've seen this, is they're really good at mirroring. So, if you're doing something, whether it's in bed or personality wise, they're clearly it's something you like or do unto others, right? So they're going to hand that back to you.
Can I say something and it's not sexual?
You also can say things that are sexual, but yes, and not sexual.
But I wanted to address mirroring, but
Yeah,
not in a sexual way.
sure.
Okay, so when I was married, later in my marriage, I was the director of online learning at a SUNY institution. I traveled for work a lot. I traveled for work weekly. I went to conferences. I spoke. Like,
Yeah.
that was my professional, gig. It's also when I was heavily into running. Like I was running half marathons, 10Ks, 5Ks, 5 milers, whatever. So like
How are your knees?
actually my foot, not my
Your
knee. My
foot?
knees are good. Like, but I
Yeah,
broke my right foot 3 times. I think I mentioned that once before.
you did. Yeah.
And so at the time, I was traveling, I was presenting, I had formed a professional association that I was a co-founder. Like I had all this stuff going on. And when I separated from my husband and he was still living in the house. Okay. And it's so funny you just said that because now it just makes so much fucking sense. And
Mhm.
like we separated, but still living in the same house. And all of a sudden, started running.
Mhm.
Okay. And this was the guy, like I think I said in a previous episode, who would not let me run if my kids were awake.
Mhm.
So I was running at 5:30 in the morning. I was running at 10 o'clock at night because he didn't want me to run during family time.
Mhm.
Um, and I traveled for work, and that was okay with him because work made money, right? So yes, that travel was okay. And so we separated, still living in the same house. He starts running, and then he went and he had never traveled for work before, never went to a conference, never did anything. And he came home one day, he's like, "Oh, I'm going to a conference in Texas." And of course, my first thought was, thank fucking God, you'll be gone. Right.
Right.
And I was like, what's this all about? Like, I feel like I'm being, what I felt? I felt like I was being copied.
Yeah.
That was my thought.
Yeah.
And he would go run whenever he wanted to. Right. So oh, Katie, the rage sometimes. He would walk in and be like, whoo, that was a great run. Like, you have great runs? And I was like, fuck you, man. I'm like, you like, kept me to like running in the dark. Like, and you want to come back and compare runs now? Like,
Mhm.
and it didn't last.
Yeah.
Because when it didn't work, it didn't
Yes,
last.
that's exactly right. Yeah.
So he probably ran for like a month or two.
Mhm.
That ended.
Yep.
Went on one work trip, never again.
Yep. Yep.
And, but yeah, that's the, okay, the mirroring that you just mentioned. For me, I felt copied.
Yeah. A lot of
Like,
people,
what is he doing?
what's what doing?
Like, I was just like, what is he doing?
Why? Why do they
Why
do
all of a
that?
sudden? Why all of a
Why
sudden?
did
Like, what's this all?
because feeling him losing you and realizing that he was. So the process of mirroring can be very subtle, and it works best when it's subtle. When someone feels a little bit desperate, it becomes more obvious and looks like copying. Gosh, it's making me crazy because I saw a movie recently. Ugh, and they did
Give
such
me
a
a
good,
synopsis.
I'm gonna
Tell me
have
it
to,
was a
okay. So again, like a narcissistic in a relationship, and this particular person was mirroring this woman's family members, and she hadn't recognized it before that he was doing it to her until she saw him do it with her father or something. And she was
okay,
like, that's not my boyfriend at all, you know? And
right?
he was, turning his head the way his father was when he was talking to him, doing these things that, because that,
Creepy.
when we, for example, when you meet, if you don't know this, people should know, when you meet a new dog, you got to go to Dogland, right? Don't look them in the eye because that means you're going to fight. Don't show your teeth and smile. That's showing aggression. So you want to mirror what the dog's doing to make them feel safe, right? So if the dog is coming, and scooting its nose at you, put your head down and just kind of stay still, scoot your nose. So mirror, and you can do it with
Okay.
children too. It's to create a sense of safety. But when you're doing that, when you first meet adults and stuff, your intention is to create a false sense of safety so you can get under people's skin. That's dangerous.
Kind of like that movie, The Talented Mr. Ripley, when he takes on everybody's personality. Do you remember
Yeah,
that one?
yes, I didn't see that, and I'm ashamed I haven't seen it. But did you see it also? Well, yes, that's a perfect example. And I wish I could remember the
What do you think of
realization on
it?
this woman's face when she was like, oh my God, I think he's so wonderful, but actually I'm wonderful because he's just acting like me. Yeah.
Ugh, it's
Yeah.
creepy. I mean, like, it's, well, you feel creeped out by it.
Mhm.
Well, I didn't feel creeped out by it. I was just kind of like, are you serious?
Well,
Nice
that is the
try.
desperate. See, that's not the subtle. That's the, okay, what can I do to grab this person's attention? How do I pull him back in? And then it just gets sloppy and weird. Yeah.
Well, because it's not, it's disingenuous.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
why,
I
you
tell you,
know?
maybe I just I don't trust personally professional disingenuous behavior. I can spot it. God, so far away. And I'm just curious, what is driving that? What are you trying to get that you're doing that? And that's where the interesting stuff is.
Well, it's to get the person back. I mean, and we'll end on this one because like I shared something with you this week that was, like I shared you that email
Yeah.
and I had you read it because I really wanted your opinion.
Yeah.
And so it was an email that my ex-husband had written to someone I had dated.
Mhm.
And you read it and you came back with your like verbose, no boundaries, crude, controlling, like,
Mhm.
but like I said to you, me as someone who was, who came out of that situation, and this email was sent, ugh, 5 years after we were separated, 2 years after we were divorced.
Mm.
And I read it as it being because the person sent it to me because they thought I should know that they had
Yes.
received it.
Yeah.
And I read it. And you know what, Katie? It took me, gotta say, my immediate reaction was, oh my gosh, like, is this person gonna believe all this about me? Is this person, because it was full of ridiculous statements. But you revert, right? You revert. But when like I told you, when I read it now, it really just looks like this last ditch effort.
You have to like get away. And what the gentleman that he sent it to, what I loved about it too, is he did this too. You get away, he was able, you don't even have to read the details. Just the concept that this overly involved email was even sent to him, and that it was dealing with it strips manipulation. It's like, first of all, just the concept he would do that. I don't even need to read all the details. If you were to say to me, my ex sent this really long email basically telling this new guy that I'm dating that he better run, I'd be like, yeah, that's crazy. Okay. Yeah.
But see, this is what I find interesting about it. Now that I can look at this more objectively and through a different lens, mostly because of doing this with you and the work that I've done. You look at that and you read it, okay? Regardless of the content, which is over the top.
Yeah.
You see the desperation.
Oh, you can smell it. Yeah.
You see it. And when you talk about mirroring, right? Or you talk about how narcissists act in sexual situations, and this, drive to, like you said, like they're getting, if they're taking you to a higher place and they're getting you off, who's getting benefit of that?
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
It's extremes, right? It's the
Yeah.
extremes in the sexual stuff. It's the extremes in the mirroring.
Yep.
It's the extremes and how far they will go and how badly they will lie.
Yeah.
That
It's
people
amazing when you
really
take
need to be
a
aware of.
hardcore narcissist and you put them in a room and you force them to be genuine. That is one of the most uncomfortable things you can ever watch because they don't know how.
Sad in a way.
It is, and you'll
Sad
see
in a
them
way.
desperately grasp at things. And if you just sit there and you just kind of watch them, they'll just flounder. It's because they
And
have
that's
spent
why.
they have spent their entire
Go
life.
ahead.
It's an extreme version of external gratification. Now, the flip side of that is somebody who's, well, we've talked about this, essentially comes from profound insecurity gone awry and becoming extreme and dangerous, where low-grade insecurity makes you feel a little unsettled and you process it, and you get a little freaked out. Maybe you're afraid somebody's going to leave you, but that doesn't mean you're stalking them. You're a little afraid that maybe someone's cheating on you, but you're not religiously going through all their personal items to figure that. You know what I mean? So it's
And that's why it's a personality disorder.
you got it. Yep.
That's why. And, like I said to you, I think, and we'll end on this one. I said to you many episodes ago, I think it was an episode either with Aaron or not Meg. Who did we
Kelly?
have first?
We had Kelly.
When I said I wasn't at the place where I could drum up any sympathy for my ex-husband. For his, but it was
I
one
don't
of
think
those.
we
I
had a
was like,
guest when we were talking about that, but I might
yeah,
be.
and I was like, I'm just not at the point where I can drum up any sympathy.
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I can drum up some sympathy.
Well, that's the true healing then, Ellen. And then it's sympathy and pity, and not pity in the
Want to
I
live like
pity.
that?
It's
Who'd want to
just
live like that?
nope.
Well, it's empathy, really, right? It's empathy. It's you got to have empathy for. I mean, I don't know. I can imagine living in his brain every day.
I've never had anyone run out of my office faster than when I was sitting with the same person I'm talking about, trying to get them to be genuine, and they were only in my office because of a marital situation. They ended up alone with me one time, and I genuinely shared with them that I felt great compassion and I was so sorry they had to live their life this way, and what a horrible journey it must be in your brain on a daily basis to navigate all of that. And the tears started to come, and then they threw up their arms, accused me basically of being a bitch, and left the room. And yep.
Reverted back to their comfortable blanket.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got empathy now. Would I communicate that? No, I don't want any communication with them. But it settles me.
Oh my
It
gosh.
settles
Well, that's
me.
the whole concept, right? Of true forgiveness. It settles you. You don't ever forget, but true forgiveness is when your heart does find, oh, what a horrible way to live, and too bad you didn't make different choices, because you don't, when someone self-subjects themselves to that kind of world, it's just personality disorders. You have so much potential to change it, and you don't. It's like watching someone you love with an addiction. You can be
It
mad,
is. It
or you
is.
can just let your heart be raw. So, I gotta go.
I got to go. All right. So we've got many good episodes lined up. Now that we are
Uh-huh.
finally done with sex. Are we ever really
Are we
done?
ever
Are we
really
ever
done?
really done with sex? No, but
Mhm.
now that we're shutting down our
For now,
four-parter.
I mean, it'll come back in its own way. Yeah.
Of course it will. But I think it was a good one. I'm glad we did it.
And I'm glad we
And
covered all different angles of it too.
yeah, we really did. So okay, you may go. I know you
I'm
have dinner
dismissed.
to make
Dinner to make
and all
tonight.
that
It will
jazz.
be healthy things. That will be my goal. Okay.
Order a pizza. It's the first day of school, for Christ's sake.
We took him for sushi last night. We pre-prepped for school. No pizza in this house. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. I'll see you later. Bye.
All right, bye.